Hello and welcome to the 20th installment of the War and Peace Quarantine Edition read through. I am Matthew Robinson. Joining me is Dimitri Portnoy, and we are discussing pages 950 to 1000. Hello, Dimitri.
Hello, Matt. Hello, everybody.
How are you, my friend?
I'm great. Feeling a little cooped up, feeling a little itchy.
All right, that makes sense. We are cooped up, and you are itchy. Let's talk about these 50 pages. These were, I'm going to go ahead and say, the most intense 50 pages yet.
Hmm. Uh, I don't like them. This is
Oh,
my least favorite section that we've read so far.
do
And
tell.
it's what I was afraid War and Peace would be like. Village idiots breaking boiled potatoes in half and singing like birds and speaking like flower scents. Um, and, and,
Oh.
and young women bending knees, weeping at the deathbeds of their brother and their lover. Uh, all of that is very familiar and feels very melodramatic to me. At
Hmm.
the same time, the writing is gorgeous, and there are the wonderful insights continue, but the plotting feels a little wobbly to me. But
Interesting.
you feel otherwise.
To me, these are maybe some of my favorite 50 pages. Maybe just for the writing, though. I feel like this is the peak of his writing in the book. These 50 pages here. I don't know. It felt like he found a rhythm that I just, and I don't know. There's something about it I found very profound. But let's begin with, it begins very dark with Pierre witnessing uh, a
An execution.
a sadly familiar scene of just awful brutality, the worst of humanity. He meets General Davoust, who's noted to be a unusually cruel man. And they have a moment where they look at each other, and who knows if this is Pierre projecting or whether or not they actually did, but he believes they had a moment of shared humanity, which probably ended up saving his life. But at the moment, he has no idea his life is saved. And he's brought out to witness an execution. He believes he's going to be a part of the execution. There are five men in a row. Each one is brought to a pole, and we get a very long, drawn out explanation of each of their deaths that is really disturbing and upsetting, and definitely puts us in Pierre's frame of mind.
We see it entirely through Pierre's eyes,
Yeah,
and he's not completely understanding what's happening. And his cloudiness, his confusion is ironically what makes the scene so real.
yeah,
Because it's not even until the fifth person is shot, that he realizes that people are being executed.
right.
And then he looks into the eyes of the shooters,
Yeah,
the French soldiers, and sees a horror at what they've done,
yeah,
and the rejection of what they've done. And they even say maybe that'll teach them not to set fires again.
yeah,
They're trying to justify to themselves.
sure.
Um, and again, it's a moment of empathy that Pierre and Tolstoy feel for uh, everyone, including their enemies.
Yeah. And it's a scene that would fit in any Holocaust movie or any Vietnam, any war film. It's a scene we've seen before of just the absolute horrors of what people can be convinced to do to their fellow man. And
Yeah, I wonder why Tolstoy decided to copy those scenes
yeah,
almost
I know.
word for word, you
Yeah,
know?
I know. It's like we get it. You've seen The Deer Hunter. Come on, Tolstoy. Uh, so Pierre is then taken to the prison barracks where he meets almost a mystical character named Platon Karatev, an old man with a dog who almost seems like something you'd come up with in a dream to make you feel better in prison. And he is a man who is almost Buddhist in his disconnection from the physical realm, and he's this sort of Zen-like figure who helps Pierre. I mean, in that moment, what we get actually at a very important moment in Pierre's arc when he's watching all of the executions, because at the end he decides that he has completely lost all faith in God and humanity and life, and will forever give up on all of those feelings. And then almost immediately Tolstoy can't handle having him stay in that place for more than about a paragraph, because he then meets the salve to that wound, who is Platon Karatev, who begins over a 4-week period to sort of rekindle Pierre's faith in life.
We know this character, this type of character, that as the magic serf.
Yeah.
Or the magic wise old peasant from the farm, who could have been one of the 50,000 souls or 100,000 souls
Yeah.
that Pierre owns, that teaches the master the true meaning of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is sort of, that pain is temporary, life is forever. He says something along those lines. Yeah. So from there we go to Maria, who takes a 2-week journey to visit her brother, Andre, who she has no idea his state. She meets her old nemesis, Natasha, and instantly all things are forgiven. The two polar opposites.
How could they not be?
Yeah, the two polar opposites of
Mm-hmm.
Tolstoy's sort of idealized women. And they are brought together over their shared love of Andre. And then we get one of my favorite passages in the whole thing, where it's Andre's acceptance of death. And we get this, what I think is a beautiful and profound dream sequence, where death is a door, something behind a door that's trying to get in. And Andre's trying to keep it out. And finally, death overwhelms him and enters the room, and he accepts it. And then we get these incredible sequences, which, I don't know, in a funny way, almost remind me of like the final moments from Terms of Endearment, when we get, Deborah Winger in bed saying goodbye to everybody, and she's in a way already dead, like it's almost her funeral, and he's already disconnected from life, and anyone can see it in his eyes. He knows he's going to die. They know he's going to die. And he's taken on a mystical place. And I think it's very apt that Karatev and this section are back to back, because I think they're the same person. In a weird way, Andre is Karatev. And I think it's almost as if Pierre is being visited by Andre. They're saying the same things, and have the same lesson to give.
One of the things that is striking about Andre, as he's seen by Natasha and Maria at that moment, is they look into his eyes and see almost anger, or disdain.
Yeah. Coldness.
And to me, coldness.
Yeah.
To me, that recalls the portrayals of saints in Russian Orthodox and Greek Orthodox art. In the icons, they look very sternly at the people who are worshiping them. There is a disdain. There is an anger in their eyes, an anger at the world, an anger at the fallen world that they're looking past. They're looking beyond. And for me, there's very much that iconography is very present in these pages, in Tolstoy's descriptions.
Yeah, I can see that. It almost feels to me, though, like he's become an alien who's looking at us all in confusion, almost as if, he can no longer understand all of our worries and all of our fears and all of our insecurities, and they're all so alien to him, I think, once he's let death through the door.
Yeah, there is a beautiful passage in that sequence where, almost in a Platonic way, Andre realizes that his universal love for humanity means he cannot specifically love Natasha.
Right.
There's a contradiction there between the eros and the agape.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't think it's a coincidence that Platon,
Yeah.
the village idiot, is named after Plato
Yeah.
in some
Yeah.
respect.
Absolutely.
And uh, when Natasha actually appears to him in person, when she saves his life, even momentarily,
Hmm.
when she brings him along, of wounded, she holds him back from his ascension, and he does stay for her, but ultimately decides to let her go.
Yeah.
And it's an exquisite passage. It's also something we just saw at the end of The Good Place. If
Hmm.
any,
I'm not caught
I'm
up.
sure. Oh, sorry, I
It's all
didn't
good.
mean to spoil it
No,
for
no,
you.
it's all good. It's all good.
It's the it's the opposite of do not go gently into that good night.
Yeah.
Rage against the dying of the light.
Yeah.
Uh, and every cell in my body rebels against it. This is the Tolstoy that I just think is he's being philosophical, he's being resigned, he's being very beautiful and very convincing.
Yeah.
I find his attitude very alien, in part because it feels so Russian to me,
Yeah.
and has so permeated the society that I knew. The gentility, the nobility of dying, the the farewell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways Tolstoy created that. I mean, I think this would have felt shocking and revolutionary at the time, and I think it was so. I think it formed the next few hundred years of, or the next 100 years of Russian culture in a lot of ways.
I was trying to figure out how would I feel about these pages if I were reading them back then. If
Yeah.
I were reading them 150 years ago without having their DNA penetrated my
Yeah. Through every
aesthetic, my human,
medium you've
my
ever. Yeah.
philosophical response. Of all the sections in the book, this is the one that's most opaque for me because of
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because I can't appreciate it
Yeah. It's like hearing a
fully.
nursery rhyme you've heard so many times.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it's like. Even though the nursery rhyme itself is exquisite,
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Sure.
it's genuine poetry.
Yeah. So Andre dies for the third time, and I will spoil for you the final time. It's probably not too much of a spoiler, but he's not coming back from this one. He's dead.
Maybe in a dream or a vision,
Like
or
a
you know,
horror movie monster, he must be stabbed 3 times in order to really kill him. He's dead. And we get a beautiful moment of Maria and Natasha crying together, but not crying for him, but crying for the mystery of death itself. Um, and the old man cries. He says that her father cries because he's next. They cry at the overwhelming mystery of death in of itself. But they've already mourned Andre. They knew he was going to die all week. But so what does this open up for us? So now I think it's quite obvious. The writing is on the wall now. Nikolai and Maria are free. There's no point in marrying 2 people into the same family. You're just passing the same money back and forth. So Nikolai and Maria couldn't have married before. If Natasha and Andre were to marry, now they're free. And I think, I'm not spoiling anything here, but clearly Natasha and Pierre now have paths towards each other as they've both had a spiritual awakening. And
if Pierre survives
if
the
Pierre
fighting squad.
survives, but I mean, that we've been hinting at that love. He definitely has said multiple times in the last 100 pages that he loves her, and Natasha had warmth for him. Natasha is warm for him in the same way that Nikolai is warm for Maria. It's not who they want, but maybe it's who they need. And we'll see. But that's where we're left off now. We've hit page 1,000. We have 216 pages left to go. And we are
Not a lot.
Not a lot, and we're almost there. So we will go ahead.
Now, I've been calling Platon a village idiot, but I've been feeling like a village idiot myself. Uh, uh, what's Pierre's one quality that everybody keeps pointing out?
He's fat.
His physical quality. He's fat.
Yeah.
Do you know how you say fat in Russian?
How?
Толстый.
Oh.
So every time, and we know it, we the readers know that Pierre is Tolstoy's alter ego.
Just as,
but every time
yeah.
somebody says the fat Pierre or Pierre's fat or you're fat to Pierre, they're actually saying Pierre's Tolstoy.
Pierre's Tolstoy.
You're Tolstoy. You know, and I hadn't realized that until yesterday.
Oh, that's funny.
And I feel like I have to share a salted boiled potato now with you. Let us do that metaphorically.
Yes, absolutely.
Right now.
Well, death is an awakening, Dimitri. That's how I'm going to start greeting. I think that in my weird dystopian future, that's how we all greet each other. Death is an awakening. Death is an awakening.
Death is an awakening to you.
I say death is an awakening to you. And
again, a beautiful sentence.
It is.
I mean,
how could you?
Gorgeous sentence.
That sentence is, when I think of the book, that's usually the sentence that first comes to mind is death is an awakening, as it's one of those things you read as a 18-year-old and it tattoos itself on your brain forever.
Orders the age I am now.
Yeah, it's the sleeper has awoken from Dune of War and Peace.
That's right.
All right. Well, death is an awakening.
What a cheerful note
yes.
to end on. From now on, it's all victories and weddings.
That's it. You're not far off. We end on our last 10 pages. We get some historical notes of Grognard Tolstoy telling us about the slow demise of the French army, and more to come of that tomorrow.
And a beautiful description of Napoleon that, again, I would not have believed had I read it 5 years ago, where it says Napoleon, who thinks that what's good is whatever is in his head.
That's right.
Sits down and writes a completely meaningless letter. And I go, no way that someone in the present time would think that what's good is whatever happens to be in his head in the moment and just spew it off in a meaningless tweet or a meaningless TV conference. That could never possibly happen.
Could never happen. We'll leave it in fiction.
Never.
All right.
Never.
Death is an awakening. I'll see you tomorrow.
Death is an awakening.
Bye-bye.